Oh, it's going.
Okay. So since you guys are going to have Brian, there's a couple of things that you can name that he'll count. For example, this thin sac right here, it goes around the heart. It's called the pericardium. You see that flap? That's part of the pericardium. These veins and arteries are your superior interventriculars. And then there's also a couple in the back. These are your posterior intraventriculars.
Do you get points for middle and great vein?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Coming from the heart, we'll start with the arteries. I'm going to leave out the word arteries, so just add that. Here's the aorta. This cat has a very good aortic arch. So ascending aorta.
Yeah.
From the aorta, we have two branches. Brachiocephalic is the branch that has the three branches from it. So brachiocephalic. This branch is called the left subclavian. Subclavians always go to the arm, subclavian. Off of the brachiocephalic, we also have a right subclavian to the arm. So left subclavian, right subclavian. Also from the brachiocephalic, we have two common carotids. You call them left common carotid and right common carotid. Right, coming from, for this cat, we will do the right subclavian since it's pretty still intact. You hear everyone say V, C, T all the time because they're saying vertebral, costrocervical, and thyrocervical. These branches all go up, and they're off of the right subclavian again. This right here is your internal thoracic. It's going to go down and usually attaches by the rib cage. It's also called mammillary. So coming up the arm, let's see if we can find anything good. So as you go up your right subclavian, it turns into the axillary region in the armpit. It's not a specific vein, it's just the axillary portion of the brain. And then axillary turns into brachial.
And that happens at the anterior humeral circumflex.
Right. So at brachial, or here the axillary portion, this cat's kind of difficult. You can see subscapular.
Oh, yeah.
Subscapular, if you dig in deep, a lot of cats you have to kind of dig in deep. You see these two branches, two small branches. 1, 2. You can point to that and say posterior humeral circumflex. And then further up the brachial portion of this vein, you can say, I believe this is either deep brachial or anterior humeral circumflex. I think this is deep brachial. Into the cat's neck, you see here the artery that goes toward the tongue. It's called lingual. Into the neck, often you'll see off of the common carotid, whether it's right or left, a external common carotid, which will go in here, and branching off of the external carotid is the external maxillary. Now, maxillary also branches off into anterior auricular and posterior auricular behind the ear. You can simply just do like this and do like this. You can say that the common carotid branches off into the external maxillary, which branches off into the posterior auricular and anterior auricular arteries. You can also say veins. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4 you can get. So then coming to This portion is called the thoracic aorta, and down here is going to be abdominal. Thoracic, abdominal. So I'm actually going to start at the bottom and work my way up.
And you already got a lot, it seems like.
Right here are your external iliacs,
Yeah.
and on the inside are the internal
Those two
iliacs.
small ones?
Mm-hmm.
Not the string, but...
Not the string.
Okay. Right
Two
there.
small ones. Yep. And a lot of times you will find branching off of this internal iliac, you can see on this cat as well, the caudal artery, that little thing right in the middle. So if you go up, this cat doesn't have any particularly good iliolumbars, but they are a paired artery, and they often extend to this region over here. So perhaps they once extended here and connected. Those are iliolumbars. Further up, this cat's a little mangled, but if you go from the iliolumbars, usually the first one up is going to be called your inferior mesenteric. So there are two mesenterics, so do not get them mixed up. This will be the inferior mesenteric. Above that, we have another pair of thin arteries. This one's missing its pair. They are the gonadals. Further up, we have your kidneys. So these are going to be the renal arteries. The kidneys sometimes will have a gland on top of them in some of the cats. There's also an artery that attaches to it, and it's called the adrenal artery or the suprarenal artery. All right. I don't know what that is. All right. I would probably say in this cat, this is the superior mesenteric. Often you'll find the superior mesenteric up here though, but it's usually it's not a tiny branch like these. It's a bigger branch like this. Above that in this cat is the celiac trunk. Celiac trunk has 3 branches we need to know. So depending on your cat, you'll be able to tell exactly which one's which. For instance, this branch right here appears that it is going to what was once the pancreas. In that case, the pancreas is granule looking like this. This is the liver, but it kind of looks like this was once the pancreas. We call this splenic artery, which is weird because you think spleen, but it's not. It goes to the pancreas. This branch, I would say, used to connect to what was the stomach in the cat, and you call that left gastric. This branch probably went to the liver at some point, and we call that hepatic.
You know, Bernadette. Okay.
Now, this here is going to be your superior vena cava. You also have an inferior vena cava. And these are the veins, so just add the word vein. If you kind of pull the viscera back, you'll often find this vein running along the spine. Sometimes it's detached. It's called azygous vein. So we have superior vena cava, and it branches off into its own left and right brachiocephalics. This brachiocephalic, you can see pretty well that it's going to break off into a subclavian. Just like there are subclavians for arteries, there's one for veins, and jugulars. Sometimes this would be external jugular. There's 2 of them. And sometimes you'll find one that crosses and connects the 2. That's going to be called transverse jugular. And here, sometimes you can't find this on a cat, but that's going to be internal jugular vein.
This is just the smaller one. And it's more medial.
Yes. I didn't mention, but the cat obviously has the radial veins and arteries, so that's 2. And the ulnar veins and arteries, that's 2 more.
And then,
Oh, I want to go over this.
I never did the leg
oh yeah, oh,
for
saphenous.
the arteries. So obviously we remember the internal iliac. This is the communicating branch. It communicates between the internal iliac, communicating branch, and external iliac. And then we remember the caudal, which was right there in between it. This turns into femoral artery. There is also femoral vein, but at this point you should have enough that you don't need to mention it. Popliteal is an artery that will run under the knee, and that will give rise to your posterior tibial, which you often can't see in cats, and anterior tibial. Posterior tibial can also branch into popliteal, and those are all arteries I was talking about. I'm not sure if those all have corresponding
I don't
veins.
think popliteal does, but I don't know about the others.
Yeah. Sometimes you will find on a cat this very superficial vein and artery, so that's 2 points. This is called saphenous. If you don't see it on your cat, just mention it anyways. You know, you never know what they'll give you points for, but that's saphenous. And I think that's